In this video, we'll configure a DNS caching name server. The default files associated with the caching name server RPM are sufficient. This video assumes the package is already installed with any dependencies. The caching name server RPM includes, say, etc named.caching-nameserver.conf configuration file. We'll copy that to the etc/name.conf file, which is the main configuration file for DNS. But before we do that, let's back up any existing version of that file, just in case something goes wrong. I back it up to the root user's home directory. You can back it up to the directory of your choice. Okay, now let's take a look at this file. Note the directives which look at port 53. This server listens on port 53. It also makes queries on port 53. So later in this video, we'll open up the firewall in port 53 to make this DNS server good for other systems on the network. But what other systems? Right now, this just listens to the local host system, also known in IP version 4 as address 127.0.0.1. I'm going to set it up for my own local IP version 4 network. Note how I use CIDR notation for this purpose. Don't forget the semicolon. Okay, that should work. Now let's activate this caching name server. The DNS script is available in the etc/init.d directory. If the system is already running, you may want to run the restart command. If it works, you'll see a series of messages to that effect in the var/log/messages file. And we have a series of log messages associated with the name daemon, which seem to indicate success. Yeah, we have this little problem associated with the WinBind service, which is associated with the Windows Internet Name Service. But if you're not running Wins or Samba at all, that's not a problem. Next, let's make sure DNS is activated in appropriate run levels, so your changes survive a reboot and they can be properly graded during your exam. Right now, DNS is set to start in no run levels. The easiest way to get it starting in appropriate run levels is with the checkconfig named on command. And now it's set to start when you boot into run levels 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now let's set up the firewall. Just for variety, we'll do this from the command line. The firewall is enabled, and we customize it to allow access to port 53 using the TCP and UDP protocols. Why both TCP and UDP? Because it's so listed. In the etc/services configuration file. Now let's test this DNS server. First, let's connect to a remote system. And in another video, I described how you can use the dig command to test a DNS server. The local system, or the system where I created the DNS caching name server, is on 192.168.0.40. And let's see what it gives when I look up vtc.com. That looks like a good DNS server. Now that you verified that the DNS server works and is properly configured, you can update the resolve.conf configuration files on any clients that you want to use this server. Alternatively, you could update a DHCP server to provide this information. But remember, such an update wouldn't necessarily apply to clients with static IP addresses